Mother and output. See if anything else is broken. Okay. I think that's okay. Okay, sorry guys. This is Pipeline Audio. This is how to use aiXdsp's multibandgate. A lot of things have changed since our original version, so I guess it's about time for an update. This is version 2.0.2.1, which is the latest current beta anyway. If anybody wants this, come grab it. Let me know. I'll get it for you. Let me just make sure I'm on the right thing here. I'm probably gonna be doing a bunch of these. Right now I'm in a spot where the acoustics are pretty bad, so it's kind of, it might be hard to understand what I'm saying. There's so much reverb in here. But anyway, I'm gonna go to Multibandgate. I'm gonna make this a little bit bigger than I would normally want to use it, just so it's easier for everybody to see. I'm gonna loop a section of snare right here. Let me just find a good chunk here. Should be okay. Let's just take a listen to what we got. This is the top snare mic here. Let me get a more simple one so it makes more sense. Okay, so here we can hear the hi-hat, and let's see, hear the hi-hat. And all's bleeding in here. Let me see if I can sum this up with my... There we go. Okay, so there's a lot of symbols and stuff in here. And then, you know, with Reaper's newer color coordinated stuff, you could really see that all that black is going to be high frequencies. Okay, so just turn on Multibandgate here. I'm just going to start from the very beginning. Okay, so I have Multibandgate inserted on this snare top track. You hear what that sounds like. I'm going to go to the key listen. And what this does is, first of all, you can set a high pass and low pass filter to really narrow in on the frequencies that you're worried about. So generally, I think the highest frequency you can possibly get that is well differentiated from the other instruments, the bleed instruments, is going to give you the best response. The way the detector tracks like low frequencies, it's just like a compressor tracking a bass guitar, if you're familiar with that. The lows are going to hold things kind of open for timing you may not want, and generally you might get some clicking and chatter and stuff. So the higher the frequency, the better. But you know, let's look at what the snare's kind of resonant frequency is here. So this right around here, I think, you know what, this isn't demarcated, but let's see where that is. It's going to be somewhere like 180, 220 hertz or so. Actually, this is a really low one. So let's look at the next peak here. But you can see it pretty well. But I think this one around 200 is going to be better. Okay, so what's happening here? If you're not familiar with this, this is just the signal that the detector is going to listen to, and the detector is what, you know, the threshold. It's what is going to set the timing of the gate itself, the attack, the release, and what level it's actually going to work at. So we don't want irrelevant stuff triggering the gate, or especially we don't want the stuff we don't want. The stuff we're trying to get rid of triggering the gate. So you want to kind of filter these things in, and we probably need to work on different slopes. This is the steepest slope we got right now, and it should be pretty good. Let's just see. Okay, so right now I'm going to go back out to the regular listening mode. So remember that this doesn't affect the audio going through it, or you're not actually filtering the audio going through the gate. You're only filtering the detector. It's going to change the way the gate works, of course, because the detector's going to be listening to something else than the original input. But we're not applying a low-pass filter to the snare drum or something, in at least the signal we're going to hear. So I'm going to switch back to the audio path, the regular audio path. So you see the highs are still there and everything. And I think that it's starting to so a normal gate, you would just have one band, right? So I'm just going to take the mid band and I'm going to spread it all the way wide. So this would be your normal gate right here. And for most purposes, this would actually be working pretty well. This is a really good studio drummer, and he keeps his hi-hat pretty far from his snare. So this really doesn't have the kind of problems you would normally have. But there's a couple in there. And so I'm going to work on, pretend this is just a normal single band gate, and I'm going to work on the timing here. So I'm trying to keep the kick drum from triggering it. And see, if I just set a hold right here. So you guys know what the attack does, right? It's how long it takes for the thing to open up. So there's a really slow attack. Hey, Tom. Yeah, Tom, I'm just showing how to use multibandgate right here. So that's your regular attack. You guys know what that does, right? Now, not all gates have a hold control. So I'm just going to use the release right here to try and set a... And notice the shape of this release right here. We're going to have multiple shapes pretty soon, so that should be pretty fun. But you know, for me, I want to specify a time as long as that the gate has to be open for before it even gets into the release phase. So even if you just had a blip, and if I don't forget, hopefully I'll show you one of the things like Glenn Fricker does, where he's got a separate trigger to open noise gates and stuff. It works just as well for this. So if you just have a real short blip, or even a Dirac or some sort of sample that you're using to open this thing, you can force the gate to stay open, even if that blip is only instantaneous, by this hold control. And this will hold the gate open for this amount of time before the release even starts. So it's I like using gates with hold controls. So let me play this again. Okay, so now we're hearing gate chatter, right? That's the gate bouncing up and down on the around the threshold mark. Now, if we put some hold in here, or if we slowed the attack, you'd probably get rid of this. So that's pretty much the duration of the snare. Like, this is the compromise you used to have to make with the single band gate. And it's actually okay. It's just the release sounds a little bit goofy. So I'm going to add a little bit of release time. And ideally, I'm pretty much getting it before it starts thumping, right? But if I really get the timing right, you see it's kind of making the drum a little bit short. It probably won't hurt in the context of things. Let me play this whole song with. So with everything else going on, you know, maybe you're like, oh, you know, it's always been okay to use single band gates. We'll use the single band gate. But you know, if that's not okay with you, we have a way to fix that. Before we get there, I want to show you something that's one of the newer features on Multibandgate, in case you were still really used to the old one. We do have look ahead time, and I could show you what that's going to do. Basically, that's just going to tell the detector to open a little bit earlier than you would have, or not necessarily a little. How far can we go? Up to 50 milliseconds earlier than you would normally like to do it. I have a video out that really shows what happens with different look-ahead times and low frequencies like kick drums and stuff. If you engage the look-ahead, you are going to pick up latency. Like you see right now in Reaper, I have 0 of 0 samples of latency. But if I move this look-ahead up, you start seeing the samples, the latency go up. It's up to you. In a mix, you may want to set this a little bit early to make sure you're opened on time for some low frequency stuff. But I think we're going to be okay in this case. But keep in mind that's there. We've got phase. We got master phase switch right here. We have individual phase switches, polarity switches for you pedants. Okay, here I go. I'm going to put my I'm going to make some faces at you guys. Let's see. Webcam small. Where do I go? Where do I go? Small webcam. Just going to put you down here. All right, there we go. So how does this work? There we go. Now I can see. Whew, look, I got a halo over my head. All right. Ooh, there we go. Okay. So one of the new things we got here is this transient listen. This came from a customer, and he showed me a mock-up of him putting a transient shaper in the detector band of multibandgate. We'll talk about the sidechain in a bit too, but so what it's going to do is it's going to be your normal transient shaper sort of thing. So let me so here's our filtered signal. Oops, that we're using. Hold on, I'm going to redo this loop. I'm going to take out the filter real quick. Okay, so if I engage the transient shaper, now this isn't a transient shaper on your actual audio. This can be a transient shaper on just the detector. But of course, like again, it's going to affect your audio. So I'm going to turn it up the attack. I'm going to turn down the sustain. So now I've got a much peakier signal that's I'm sorry, I got a much peakier signal to trigger this gate with. So I'm going to put the filter back on how I had it. In general, I just yanked the entire sustain out all the way to minus infinity. So I'm going to get back out of key listen. So my gate timing sounds pretty good. There's a couple things I want to fix. Hold on, I just got to tell the developer one thing. I want to make it so, and I think this actually was before, the transient shaper, you could see the effect of it in key listen. I think when you guys were watching, you didn't actually see anything different in the audio, so that's a little bit wrong. Let me go back to key listen real quick. Yeah, you really can't tell the difference between transient shaper on and off in here, so we'll fix that. Okay, so anyway, next part of this. Divide up your bands. So in the case of the snare, what I want to do, I want the highs to stop right away. So like when the snare gets hit, you're gonna hear that smack, but the the hi-hat's not gonna last for a long time. So I want that high really short. But now where is that high gonna be? So I'm gonna solo the band. Each band has mute, bypass, and solo, and invert polarity. So I'm gonna solo the high band. I mean, I even use this as a pre kind of tone control. You usually see me taking the mids way down or way up. Even before we get to another instrument, I start shaping the tone right in this plugin, which is maybe a little bit screwy. But in this case, I'm gonna look at this high for the things that I want to stop very quickly. I just want to hear the length of the stick. That's really what I'm after here. And that's what I want from this high. So I'm gonna solo this, and it's gonna sound crappy by itself. I want this to stop pretty quick. Okay, that little click right there again is you're chasing a bass threshold wave. This goes down pretty low. This crossover. The threshold's riding on the wave, so it's chattering the gate open and stuff. Just set a tiny little bit of attack. You'll get rid of that. I'm gonna make this mid long enough that I'm gonna hear the ding part that I want. It's gonna be much longer than the splat of the highs. Because really, I only need to hear that stick for the tiniest little bit. And on a kick drum, I would just kind of almost let the lows go forever. It's not really going to mess with you. A snare, I kind of don't want the kick drum in there, so it's a little bit trickier. But let's play and see what we can get here. And again, I might just pull this whole thing down, but let's go to the lows. Now I want the lows to last a long time, but I mean, this is kind of the whole point of this gate. But I'm gonna let it. Let's just see how short we can get, because there is a kick drum problem that comes up here. So I would likely before going on to a compressor and a EQ and all that. Depends how spitty I want it. Actually, might not have it that spitty actually. Okay, let me unsolo this. Okay, let's see what else we got. Okay, so hysteresis is going to be the difference between the on threshold and the off threshold. So you can make it positive or negative. In this case, what I want to happen is that I don't want it to re-trigger unless it gets above a certain level. And this is, to me, this is way more important when you're a guitar player and you don't want your solos tails getting cut off. But let's see what we can get with the hysteresis here. could even have it, though this is dangerous, but sometimes you'll do this on a kick drum. Have it so that the threshold is above, so it can't trigger again unless you get really high. But this can be dangerous if two hits are close together and you need them both. It might not open it up. Oh no, Warren already has these. Warren's got, he actually did a video on the older version of Multibandgate. Okay, let me see. Okay, so this switch right here is to look at, you know, pre or post. What's the spectrum looking at? You know, the input or the output. Let's see. And what else have we got to talk about? Oh, so gate source. So check this out. So you can actually make the gate open from MIDI. So if you have a, you know, you could make a MIDI trigger pack. If you wrote in your drums or whatever, you could actually have MIDI up there deciding what time this thing's opening and what's not. So let's do that. So gate source is MIDI. So all I have to do is send MIDI to that channel from somewhere. I think it goes into the input. I'm trying to remember exactly how Reaper's routing would work here, but I'm gonna do a MIDI thing just real quick. This is going to be complete crap, so sorry about that. But insert MIDI, new MIDI item, and I think it's just going to get any MIDI at all. So open items in editor, and I'm just gonna add it here. See, so and I think I can't remember if it does it by absolute length or. Let's just, what are we on? 30-second triplets? No, let's just get straight. Eighth notes. Okay, I know this is not going to be ideal, but this is just to show you what's going on here. Just put it 1. So I think this can be the wrong time. It should be like on the 2 or the 4 or something. So this is going to be a disaster, but you know, we're learning here. 2, 4. Okay, so I'm just going to loop a little section of this. That might be too close to. Okay. Okay, so if I just have these MIDI blips opening it up, so I'm switching it to MIDI, the gate source. So now I've got nothing's coming, it's not opening, right? The MIDI channel you can set here. You can tell it to be on a MIDI note, but I'm just telling it to use all notes to see. So you can choose what channel and choose which notes, or you don't have to. You can make it all notes. You tell the developer something. You know, this is a great thing, because while we're explaining this stuff, it really brings up the quality of life stuff. Okay. I'm still sitting in the drawer to be. I'm still sitting in the drawer to be. I'm still sitting in the drawer to be. I'm still sitting. Okay, so let's turn this MIDI track on, and you're going to see every time one of these MIDI blips comes, it's going to open up the gate. I'm still sitting in the drawer to be. I'm still sitting in the. So if you use something like that, you have so much power over what's going to open and what's going to close. I'll show you how to do this on a sidechain in a second. But so you can choose your gate source as the audio, MIDI, or both. And notice when I show gate source MIDI, there is no threshold control. That's just any MIDI message is going to open that thing up, or any note on, or whatever it is. We could change this later if you guys have a trouble with that, but I think that's okay. It's worked out well for me so far. Okay, I'm going to change this back to audio though. And let's see, is there anything else for me to show you on this? Let's see. Oh, of course, our Discord. You know, if you guys ever need help, man, 24 hours a day, you're gonna go to Discord when you click that thing. You know, just accept the invite, come say hi, or whatever, and we'll take care of it. Okay, but let's talk about the sidechain. So if we're in Reaper, Multibandgate has 2 ins and or actually has 4 ins. So you got your 2 sidechain inputs and you got a whole bunch of outputs. Actually, remind me, you can send each band out separately as well. This is easier to do in Reaper than most apps. I really don't know. Like I'm working on Studio One to try and figure out how in the world you can do this stuff. But if we want to see sidechains working, so I'm going to change the track channels to 4. Okay, and so now you see that sidechain left and the sidechain right in are 3 and 4. I'm going to take the same MIDI track. But it's not going to be MIDI anymore because see the source is audio. I'm going to take this MIDI track. I'm going to actually it's already going to that snare. So I'm going to change it from audio 1 and 2 goes to audio 3 and 4, which are the sidechain inputs on that track. So any audio that comes out of here that's going to open this thing up is going to go through this sidechain right here. And in this case, I'm going to use audio to sidechain it, but if you were doing it like Glenn does, where he records the trigger pulse, you might actually convert that to MIDI, or you might want to go the other way. We're going to go the other way real quick. I'm going to do pre-fader post effects because I'm going to turn this channel down. But what I'm going to do is, oops, shoot. I'm going to put a little snare sample on here to open it. You could do this with a million different ways. You could do a convert MIDI to samples or something. But in this case, I'm just going to put a drum set on there. I'm just going to use SSD if I have it on here. Oh, which I don't. Great. Oh no, that's right, because they're not doing VST3s, are they? Or they are. Oh wow, let's see if this works. Because remember, the MIDI was so broken on VST3. You go to. Now, sadly, I don't know what note I made on this MIDI thing, so let me change this. I'm going to change this to 38, so it's going to fire off a snare. Properties, open, items in MIDI editor. Okay, so I want to change this to, oops, 38, right? It's going to be snare. This one right here, is that 38? I can remember how do you tell me? Yeah, right there, 38. Wonder why that's only coming on the left side. Why is that? Oh, I panned it, not volume. Oops. Oops. Okay, so now let's just check this. I'm gonna turn the volume up here. Let's check this track. Let me get rid of snare top. Okay, so I'm going to make this audio. These are now snares. In fact, let me just render it to there, and then we'll have it done. So open. Okay, so now it's snares. Let's just say you had the snare triggers like Glenn uses on his. Like even those D-drum redheads, they'll do a big time. It'll even be spikier than this. Like this, you can tell like it's going to hang on the edge a little bit, but if you really do it with the with like the triggers, it's pretty spiky. So I'm going to send this into the sidechain of Multibandgate here. So let me get rid of this. Okay, and I'm going to listen to the sidechain. So I don't need to filter this at all. I really don't need the Transient Shaper. but it'll help a little bit. But remember, this thing doesn't have to sound good. It just has to open strongly and sharply. Okay, so now we're going to have this snare open up the gate. So now the snare's on its own timing. And one of the really crazy things is here, now I can really set this. Because it's not going to reopen, or it sure shouldn't, unless something's broken with the build. See, now I can get that ding, ding, that ring. That's good. See, here's if I'm using a regular drum. It's not going to sound super different, but yeah, this thing needs to show something different. I think that's it. Of course, there's those polarity controls here, and I think that's about it. Hopefully, you guys can figure out how to use this. You could sidechain in like a bass guitar from the kick drum or something. I could show you that, but I think the basics are covered here. I'll be back later.